Animal drawing. Probably started teaching animal drawing 45 years ago. Not to teach animal drawing, but the main point was to take and be able to draw something that you knew absolutely nothing about. And so that was really the key to the process. It was an analytical approach, constructive analytical approach. In fact, that's what I teach you, whether it's everything. Okay, and that's really the process. So where do you start when you're drawing animals? People, us, we're animals. And that's what we know the most about, or hopefully we know the most about. But this is where we begin. And so let's just take in thing. Now, when we're drawing animals or we're drawing people, you are always looking for the same thing. That's the critical part. So what you have to have are points that you're always looking for. And it's a big consistency. So it's a means of being able to analyze from understanding. So you've got a point to begin with. So let's start here. Okay, we begin with, let's say the human here. We've got our skull. Look at this. Okay. Now, if we start with this, and the beginning point then is we say, well, okay, here's the human skull. I'm just doing a bit of a profile here. Very simple. And the neck would come down, ears here. Now, if we take from that, starting out with this basic idea, okay, and let's do this a couple of different ways here. Let's do a 3/4. So now, eyes in center. You have a brow line. Corner of the eye socket, cheekbone, planes for the eyes, bottom of the nose, ear, plane goes back, down, eyes, nose, mouth. Okay, now, let's think about our closest cousins, something like the chimpanzee. Okay, what are the big visual differences to start with? Because we're talking about visual. That's the critical thing for us. Okay, is that first, if we just take and remove the shape of the brain, chopping that off. So we're just taking and dropping that off. Okay. Now, everything becomes a question of what do we eat? What are we? For instance, let's just take here. There's a couple things. Okay, here we have another cousin, the gorilla. Okay. Here you can see brains have been dropped off. Not to say that they're not smart, but just the shape, the look that we have. We have the muzzle here, it's really sticking out. Okay. What's the logical point? Everything, when you're drawing animals, you have to think about function, you think of scale. We take in, something like this, or a cat. Here's another cat. There's a scale that we're dealing with constantly. Okay, function, scale, function. Okay, here we have a mouth that we look at. When people look at a gorilla, we think that a gorilla is really big, like we got big fat belly. It's not fat, it's a fact that what do they eat? They eat very rough food. They're taking and chewing all kinds of things. So they need really strong jaws. They need to have this mouth sticking out. So the whole muzzle is pulled out. Okay, so if we take from that, let's just take that to our drawing here now. So if I take and pull out this muzzle, instantly we have basically the contour of a chimpanzee. All I've done is chop the top off and pull the mouth out. In other words, if I come over here and I do the same thing, let's just do this a bit more extreme here where you can see it. So we're pulling the eye socket out, pulling through, and we pull the muzzle out, coming through out into here. The mouth is going to still be in the same place. The nose is in the same place. Nothing has changed. The eyes are the same. So all we're talking about is a general sense of scale here, placement. So we've got a chimp here. Now, let's just go back and look at this gorilla a little bit. Okay, this fragment here now. But this is a big, heavy head. Okay, and you can see these parts that are raised up here. Okay, we've got all of this is for being able to attach very large muscles to hold the head up. There's no other function here. It's just a platform for holding muscles. Okay, so if we come to that, let's just take the chimp here. So if I take that chimp and I raise this platform back here up, and we start coming through. Now, and we actually add the muscles onto here. Well, we've got the muscles coming up here. We've got this coming down here. You've got a gorilla. It's nothing more complicated than that. So this scale idea takes and follows through with pretty much everything. Like all of this ridge here, that's all for taking and attaching muscles. So here we've got this ridge up here, muscles for the top of the head. We got the gorilla. Okay. All of this ridge, which I'll take and add here, all of this ridge is going down. These are the muscles that are going down into the jaw that are taking and holding this thing up to be able to move, to eat these rough elements. So they go from that then. In other words, we're talking about this whole section in here. And this ridge goes through, the skull is back in here. The muscles are coming down, you got your jaw coming through. So this is all building up. Okay, now we would take in here, you would see that ridge, we'd see this building up here. Okay, scale. Well, let's take a look at here, you have cat. This is also cat. This is your tiger. Okay, the same thing. Now, one of the things you start with, if you look at this cat here, notice it's really smooth. Very smooth, but this is the same thing that's going on here. Now, if you compare that with this tiger, they're really the same thing, just cats. But you notice that this is like in the gorilla. This is a raised section here. Okay, same thing here now. This is just a connection. This is just a connection for the muscles. Okay, so now, another point that we take and bring into here is talking about function. Okay, this is a point that a lot of people don't, probably not aware of this. For instance, cats cannot chew. Okay, now, so we're looking at this function. This is a tiger, cat. Most people aren't aware of the fact that cats can't chew. This just punch, slice. Okay. Now, also, we're talking function. Cats, like our eyes, are facing forward. We're predators. Okay. If we take somebody like sheep, the eyes are actually facing more to the side. They can look behind themselves. They're more concerned with who's going to eat them than who they're going to eat. And for instance, you notice on the plate of the upper part of the sheep here that there's no teeth up here. They have teeth on the bottom, they're nipping. Okay, so that's, again, a different thing. It's a grazing animal. They have teeth for grinding. So it's function. Here we have this is a pig. This is a donation from one of my neighbors. I always, beside this, we think there's, it actually, unfortunately, it got dropped, but you can see this, how thick the skull is. And you can see the little hole in the top here. When I first was given this, actually, it was given to me on a platter with all the meat, which I had to clean. And when I found the hole, I said, oh, and I mentioned to the people that gave it to me, I said, oh, something like a 45. They said, no, it's just a 25, or 22, excuse me. And very small, but very thick. But look at the shape of the skull. Pigs tend to be quite predatory also, looking forward. They have teeth very similar to ours. Not all that different, okay? So scale, function, everything, these are all the primary things. So, but if we look at something like a rodent, okay, we have a rodent here. Now, you look at this rodent, all the teeth obviously are showing you what the function is. They're taking and chewing and gnawing. So everything builds on function. You look at the time where the eyes are. Okay, scale. Start looking at even these are the, well, actually, there's a long story with this, which goes along, is that I've had friends that are always coming up and dropping off carcasses to me. And for me to clean, use, and this was a roadkill, still fresh, okay? But we started looking at and analyzing hands and the bones. It's very, very similar to ours. There's very little difference. All the mammals were all very, 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 very similar. So let's just take and carry this into the drawing a little bit more now. Now, if we take a look at the human skeleton here. Okay, we still have this ridge, which is called the nuchal ridge, which is a nuchal ligament that fits up. But we have this ridge that comes through here. That's exactly what I was talking about with the scale for the other animals, except we stand upright. Our muscles, everything is based on us standing upright. Now, one of the things that you look at the human, our rib cage is very narrow at the top. We get broader as we come down. Now, if we take in here, so the idea here is if we take a cross section of the human skeleton, the rib cage, what we find is this is a very broad shape. It has a curve up here through the spine, and we're taking and pulling around like this.